The biggest occurrences for me in Seattle, especially in the judges booth that was talked about publicly over the PA, was probably Vaughn Gittin Jr. and Ken Gucci. It was a really weird incident. It resulted in a protest from Vaughn's team. But actually what was going on in competition during that time for me is what actually became more talked about in the interwebs and social media afterwards, and that was Chelsea Denofa versus Chris Forsberg. So the context of the incident is that it's from a one more time battle. First battle was back and forth, they went one more time. In the second run, Chelsea led and then Chris chased, but where the incident happened was when Chris was leading against Chelsea. Chris comes off the bank, he's got a little bit of a gap established, Chelsea's trying to chase him down, he's accelerating, trying to get closer. They get to inside clip 1, there's contact, and Chelsea spins, okay? Now the judges obviously have to find out what happened there. They're looking at the run. Was Chelsea coming out fast? Did Chris slow down? They ended up giving the win to Chris.
Now, from our perspective, looking at the battle, we didn't see a significant enough slowdown from Chris in that situation. We saw sometimes we call it a shared fault, but in that situation it looked like Chris didn't really slow down. There was a slight slowdown in his wheel speed, but Chelsea just got caught out by his advancement in that area, trying to close the gap, right?
Well, I think there's a big disconnect from the judges, what they're looking at and seeing versus what's going on in the cars. Clearly, like, after watching it many times from qualifying, from the run before when we battled, from every time, he was not doing that. He was doing some things on the track that were different from others, slowing down in certain spots, but that's what drifting is. It's not everybody doing the same thing. So our spotters and everybody tells us and we adapt to that. But all weekend he had no problem staying on gas going there. I heard that he was complaining about it being a shift or something, but he has a $30,000 gearbox in his car that shifts for him. He just has to pull a lever. So clearly, like, there's a disconnect there somewhere. And cars don't just accelerate immediately, but cars can slow down immediately drifting. You know, you can surge, have a little bit of a movement forward, but you don't just magically just fly into another car without the car in front doing something to slow down. And I think the judges kind of have a misunderstanding of something like that.
You know, like my spotters tell me, and I knew as well, like don't blow that inner clip, you know, like get the car wound up, nail that clip, that's what they hung us out for. And so as we're rotating around, you know, we're coming in tight on inner 1, and you know, we're adjusting the car, getting it set to get back on the power, like through 1 into the last turn, and through the transitions where I normally would downshift the car for the tight right. But as we're coming around turn or inner clip 1, the car was like so wound up from all the extra grip we put into it that as I leaned into the pedal expecting it to like blow the tires off and power us through there, it just loads up and sits at like 4 or 5 grand, you know, it's just like just loaded. So I quickly like punch it down a gear, try and get it down to 3rd as fast as I can, drop it back out of the gas, and we get back in, tires start spinning, we rotate through and go. After we got back on the power, Chelsea bumped into us and looped out, and I thought that, you know, my mistake, you know, like a little loss of momentum there would be enough to lose, and you know, so I'm talking to the spotter, he's like, yeah, like they see it, they're looking at it. I was like, all right, you know, like definitely messed up, we'll see what they say. And so it was taken into consideration. The judges looked at it and they felt that I didn't slow down enough to cause the impact in the spin. And that was basically it. So I didn't feel great about it, but you know, like it's their call. They saw it, they made their best judgment on what was presented to them, and you know, there was nothing hidden. We made sure they knew that there was a mistake on our part, and so that was it. And obviously Chelsea disagreed with that and had plenty of words to say about it after the event, during the event, through my window while I was competing in the event still. After the event was over, it was pretty unsportsmanlike, and I was didn't expect that at all from him. So
I actually did zero smashing on social media. My fans went in on him, and people that aren't even my fans went in on him and smashed him pretty hard. I don't even really think I made any comments other than maybe agreeing with somebody who had an illegitimate, like, hey, how did the judges not see that? Oh yeah, I don't know how I didn't see it. Like, but everybody online was smashing him pretty hard. I definitely had some words with him, and I definitely smashed him really hard. Not physically fighting him, but just verbally. And because I feel like, 3 times out of 5 events this year that I battled him, and all of the times I battled him this year, we've had this problem, you know? And it's progressively gotten worse, even though I've taken the patience and time to wait for his mistakes and the things he was doing differently than other drivers on the track, which he's not the only person you have to do that for. But clearly, like, there's a disconnect, like, between the judges and what's going on in the cars.
For someone that has basically devoted his entire life to drifting, why would I cheat to win? Like, would I do that? I've been here long enough. I think I'm trying to throw whatever reputation I've put together in the sport in the dirt, and like my potential like last few years in this sport. I'm not going to do this forever. Why would I just start cheating to win? I could care less. Just trying to have a good time. I throw down some good battles, and I don't know. It's getting really old.
The online feedback, let's say from the fans, to Chelsea and to Chris was way more severe than we ever anticipated. And it's funny how that happens from time to time, and this is one of the more, I think one of the more extreme examples of that, based on what we saw afterwards. Chris got a lot of hate, I don't know, you wouldn't call it hate mail, but hate DMs maybe, hate messages on his posts that I don't think was really warranted.
But the one question that I have is that I think if there really was a punctuation, noticeable punctuation from Chris, and he admits that there was a mistake, why didn't Denofa's team protest that? And if you know the context of what's going on at the time, there was another protest going on with his teammate, Vaughn. You know, did that suck the oxygen out of the room? Did his team not think about that? Because I think if that was really a call that could have been overturned by the visual evidence that was there, that it should have been protested. This, for me, is an example of what makes the sport so unique and so interesting, because you have an occurrence that happens and you have two completely different perspectives. Both guys that are very adamant and strong in their opinions about what transpired. And unfortunately, it's led to a little bit of a divide between them, which is sad from a personal perspective. But nonetheless, it will create a continued rivalry as we finish up the season.